Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Sunday race of the day. It is the Memories of Silver Stakes at Aqueduct. This one goes as race 8 on a pretty interesting card at Aqueduct on Sunday, I should say. If you want to check out the race just before this race 7, it features an intriguing cast of allowance runners, including Arkansas Derby 4th place finisher Cornucopian, who attracted some Derby buzz early in the season. So definitely do some handicapping for this Sunday card at Aqueduct. But we're going to focus on the future race, the Memories of Silver. Before we get into the handicapping, though, do note, and speaking of those 3-year-olds, we are right around the corner from the Kentucky Derby. So you want to make your handicapping plan. Make sure that you've got those PPs set for when the card is drawn on Saturday. So check out our Kentucky Derby packages. You can save up to 39% if you bundle the PPs with betting strategies, the player's guide, clock reports. Just go to shop.drf.com to learn more about our Kentucky Derby past performance packages. Well, Mike, we have the Woodhaven on Saturday at Aqueduct. On Sunday, the fillies are in the spotlight in this Memories of Silver, and we've got a field of 9 runners that are entered for the turf. 1 MTO, that's the 10 Bernie and the Rose. It would be tough if this race gets rained off. There is some rain predicted on Saturday, but fingers crossed, I think it looks good for this race to stay on the turf on Sunday. And we've got a couple of runners that are likely to take the most money at here in the number 2, Laurelin, who showed ability during her 2-year-old season, coming back off a layoff, and also Virgin Colada, the number 9, coming back off a layoff as well after a disappointing effort in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, Virgin Colada never really got going. A little trouble early at the Breeders' Cup, and then just never really got going there, David. But she showed plenty of potential as a 2-year-old. Laurelin, I have no knocks on her. You made her 2-1 on the morning line for this race, David. Her 2 races last year looked like she was pretty good with maybe even a little bit more to give.
With this being the DRF Sunday race of the day, do note you can get free past performances for this race. It's really easy to do. Just go to create a free account on DRF.com, head it over to that race of the day page, and you can access free past performances for every single race of the day, whether it's Classic, Formulator, Timeform US, all available for you to do your handicapping along with Mike and I. So let's go to the Timeform US pace projector before we get to some of the main contenders, Mike. And I feel like this pace projector captures the way I expect this race to be run. The number 8 Birder account, whether you like her or not, as a long shot in this race, is going to find herself on the front end as long as she breaks cleanly, just given the speed that she's shown in some of her races at Parks and Laurel recently. She was involved in a pretty hot pace last time in that Beyond the Wire stakes, albeit on the dirt. But if she handles the turf at all, she's going to find herself in front.
Yeah, it did feel like the 2 surface switchers here, the 8 and the 1, would probably both be going forward in here. And I don't really have anything to add to the way the pace projectors laying this thing out here, David. I thought those 2 horses went. Italian Suarez, the 3. She's got a lot of tactical speed, is a very handy horse. I expect her to be much closer to the pace this time.
Let's go through this field in post position order, beginning with the number 1, Icona Mama, drawn down towards the inside. As Mike noted, she is one of those surface switchers in this race, having never tried the turf before. She did win her debut on the all-weather surface at Presque Isle Downs, subsequently went to the dirt after that, and ran some decent races in stakes company. She wasn't disgraced in the Pocahontas behind Kentucky Oaks contender La Cara. Didn't really progress so much after that, and she's tailed off a bit in her last couple of starts, though it's not like she ran that badly in the Virginia Oaks last time, and now they're just trying something new, experimenting with the turf.
Yeah, there's a lot to prove here from her, I would say, in terms of both class and surface. We'll just see how she does. It's not like she makes the surface switch here into some kind of easy field. I mean, there's some good horses in here if they've progressed from 2 to 3. And, listen, her dam was a really, really cool horse, a really versatile horse. She handled all 3 surfaces. But I didn't just see, tons and tons of pedigree here to make me think she's going to be a better turf horse.
Up next is that morning line favorite, the number 2, Laurelin. As you mentioned earlier, she's coming off a layoff into this race, but she did show a lot of talent during her 2-year-old season, winning both starts. Her debut, where I thought she made multiple moves after starting off at the back of the pack, made a big move up into mid-pack down the back stretch, and then moved again to kick away from that field in the stretch. Did a similar thing in her second race. We'll take a look at the stretch run of the Tepin, where I didn't think she got a perfect trip, Mike. She was stuck 2 wide on the first turn, then got pushed out 3 wide with no cover on the backstretch, proceeded with no cover all the way around the far turn, but still was able to close this field down in the stretch. Mike, I get the sense you agree with me on this based on your comments a little bit earlier. This filly seems like she's got real talent, and I won't be surprised if she's not just a listed stakes quality winner and she turns out to be a grade 1 level horse later in the year.
Look at her the exact same way. I don't really have anything to add to the way that you broke down her 2 races. So all the same things. She looked really good to me last year. You mentioned, listen, she's off the layoff here, making her first start as a 3-year-old, but typically Graham Motion's really, really good off of layoffs. If she comes back close to ready, she's going to be a handful in here.
The number 3 is Italian Soiree, a horse who showed some talent when she broke her maiden on debut last July at Aqueduct. That was in a dirt sprint, but she was a horse that kind of had the profile of one who should be able to stretch out to the longer distances. They tried to do that switching over to the turf in the Natalma, where she was probably just 4th best behind some pretty talented runners, including Nitrogen, who's gone on to do some nice things for Mark Casse since then. And Mike, they tried the turf a second time in the Jessamine towards the end of her 2-year-old season, and it was hardly an ideal trip that day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, both of her turf races, I mean, I get she still has something to prove, David. We don't know how good she actually is. The Natalma, I thought, was, fine. It was just more than anything else. Maybe she just wasn't good enough, but it was also a race that just really wasn't coming back to her. They just dominated up on the front in that race. And as you've already pointed out, the second and the third place finishers of that race have both turned out to be really good for Mark Casse. Her Jessamine trip was an absolute disaster. She had no chance in there against a good field. And I actually feel like she ran a lot better than it looks on paper. This isn't necessarily a race where you want to, I don't want to take a huge swing against the favorite in here. But if I did, I could give Italian Soiree a chance to really move forward here as she returns to the grass.
I was a little surprised they put the blinkers back on last time, because even though she got a crazy wide trip in the Jessamine, she seemed to settle way better than she had in some of her prior races. She got keen again last time on the dirt with the blinkers, so we'll see if she's able to settle a little better switching back to the turf this time. The number 4 is She's in a Mood, who's going to be a big price in this race. She made a crazy late run from off the pace after breaking slowly to upset a field at Saratoga last summer, but that was sprinting on the turf. She was off for a long time after that. They brought her back earlier this month, actually just 2 weeks ago, sprinting again at Gulfstream, and was never really a factor. She's got her work cut out for her in this spot, Mike.
Yeah, they've just entered her in a really, really tough spot here to try stakes company and to try 2 turns for the first time. She'll be a big price in here if you like her, but I have a hard time picturing her beating this field.
Mike, now doing some of these previews with you and watching some of your comments in the past, I get the sense you've got an affinity for the number 5, Opulent Restraint, who has shown ability on occasion. I mean, she broke her maiden second time out at Saratoga, looking like a horse that had real upward potential at the time. She got the job done in the Chelsea Flower over this course, but was kind of life and death to hold on that day. And Mike, I was pretty disappointed with her last race in the Florida Oaks, where she got a stalking trip, but could never reel in the front runner and just kind of went backwards at the end.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still think there's potential here. We'll see if she ever does put it all together. She just looks like the kind of horse as a 2-year-old who was, taking her time figuring things out along the way. Even though she went 2 for 3, it didn't feel like she was totally clued in those races. I think if I wanted to be lenient about the Florida Oaks, David, I would just say she raced a little bit freely early in that race, sort of chasing that pace, which wasn't the trip that I expected her getting there. She did a lot of chasing. She got tired at the end. Maybe she just needed it off the layoff. But I'll tell you what, she better start putting things together quickly because, she's had her chances now. She's supposed to start figuring this game out.
I will say she's a bit of a morning glory. She went off at odds on in her debut. She trains really well, trains really strongly into the bridle, but she kind of runs that way too, with her head down. She doesn't really stick her nose out. And even when the jockey sets her down, it's like she never fully levels off in her races, and she's got to figure that out if she's going to be competitive at this top level. The number 6 is Candy Quest, who has really come to hand lately for trainer Mark Casse. I mean, she won her debut like she was going to be a good horse. Maybe took a slight step backwards off the layoff at Gulfstream when she lost that 5 furlong race, but you can always forgive horses for that, but they're trying to come from off the pace, going that distance down in Florida. She won her race 2 back in workmanlike fashion. And Mike, I liked the late run that she put in last time in the Sanibel Island, and we could take a look at the replay of that race.
Yeah, I like all of her races, actually. I'm with you. Her debut was really good. You're supposed to be really lenient about the Gulfstream race. Cutting back to 5 furlongs from 6 even is a huge undertaking for some horses, and she just didn't really handle it behind a good horse. Her 2 races since then are both good. This is a race right here. I think if I was going to nitpick this race, David, and I like to finish that she puts it, I would just say I don't love the horse that beat her, the horse that won the race. So that concerns me a little bit, but I really have no knocks on this horse. I think she's pretty good, and she's going to be a good price in here.
Yeah, she's one that I had trouble deciding what to do with in this race because on one hand, I liked that late run. I agree with you about the quality of that field last time. And she was also 9-1 in that race. And now it feels like she's going to be a shorter price against what I think is a much tougher field. The number 7 is Love Cervere, who is actually coming out of the same race, the Sanibel Island, where she was not nearly as successful, checking in 5th, despite the fact that she went off as the 5-2 favorite. Mike, I did like both of her prior efforts. Her debut win at Aqueduct, I thought, was a nice effort. She didn't take any money for Christophe Clement, who is well known as a trainer that can get horses to win on debut, but she surprised them that day and came right back and ran pretty well behind a really talented horse in Nitrogen in that Ginger Brew at Gulfstream, and did not get an ideal trip in that race. Was steadied into the first turn, had to alter course in the stretch. And Mike, when I'm evaluating the last race, I wonder if that gap you see in her workouts between February 12th and the middle of March suggests that maybe there was a slight setback and we should be forgiving of the last effort.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And listen, even if that gap in the work time wasn't there, she did have, as you've already noted, some real trouble into the first turn of that race. So maybe that would be enough to get you to want to take a second look at her. She also spent a lot of time sort of racing in and among horses in that race. I don't know, David, I could go either way on this horse, I guess. I'm having a really tough time convincing myself that I like her, though. You noted her debut where she looked good winning. I still think that was a terrible field that she beat. And then when she came back in the Ginger Brew, I get it. It's not like she had a perfect trip in there either. But man, Nitrogen was so much the best in that race, only really shaking free at the very, very end, and still came up and closed that race. I'm not sure that she is as close to Nitrogen as maybe as it looks on paper.
The number 8 burner account is a horse that some people might just skip over as they're handicapping this race because she's switching surfaces. She looks uncompetitive based on her dirt races. But Mike, when you start to take a bit of a deeper dive into this horse, I think there are some interesting things to consider. Mark Casse had her early in her career and clearly thought she was a turf horse, ran her on the turf twice. Her debut race, I know it looks terrible. The comment line is a little misleading. Kendrick Carmouche felt something amiss and pulled her up when you watch the replay. So I would just draw a line through that race. She beat way weaker company, but did win on the turf after that at Colonial Downs. And they went to dirt for New Connections, who purchased her at auction following that. And she was awful on the dirt, but she steadily improved and has actually run some decent races on dirt recently, including an upset stakes victory 2 back. And then last time out, she was involved in a crazy fast pace going a mile in that Beyond the Wire and actually held on better than you'd expect. Again, at a very big price. She was intended to be a turf horse early. She's got turf pedigree being by Flameaway, and she looks like the potential lone speed in this race. So she's not the worst horse to consider that could outrun her odds.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I want to bet her in this race, but I agree with everything that you said about her, especially when you start looking at not only the improvement recently, but just the pedigree, David, because the first 2 starts were sprints. And not only is she bred for turf, but she's really more bred to be, sort of a distance kind of horse on the dam side. So I can see her switching back to turf with a little bit more distance to work with, and maybe just sort of surprising and running a much better race.
The number 9 is Virgin Colada, the other horse that's likely to pull in a lot of support in this race, primarily due to the connections, Flavia Pratt and Chad Brown. They always take a lot of money in New York on these turf races. And Mike, she shaped like a pretty talented horse on debut when she broke her maiden coming from way off the pace, looked like the kind of horse that was going to be Chad Brown's next turf star. And it hasn't quite worked out. She's lost at short prices the next 2 times, the PG Johnson. I do think she was beaten by a horse with some talent and totally justified, but then she ran to the Miss Griel. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. This was 2 back in her past performances, and you could see there were some horses that had real trips in this race, that trio that's veering to the outside part of the turf course. So she avoided all of that trouble. It actually cut the corner, saved a lot of ground. You could argue she had one of the better trips of anybody in here. Closes for second, but still never really threatens the winner on this day. And I know she had trouble next time in the Breeders' Cup. I still thought she was pretty bad in there.
Yeah, great. I think we look at it the same exact way. I mean, I was pretty taken with her debut. It was a compelling performance for sure. I don't love the 2 stakes following that. She didn't run poorly either time, but she didn't run great either. Traffic into the first turn there and forced outward on the first turn of the Breeders' Cup, but she did no running after that. I mean, she never made a move in that race.
Rowdy got the field on the outside. MTO, Birdie on the road. She would only compete if this race came off the turf. A likable horse who's won 4 in a row, but hopefully we don't get to see her participate on Sunday. Let's go to our picks for this race, the Memories of Silver. And Mike, you're going to land with the number 3 Italian Soiree on top, who's likely going to be a price in here.
Just want to give her one shot at a price here, David. Back to the grass here. I think she is going to get the right kind of a trip this time. She should be forward in this race because she's got that kind of speed. I'm not, sitting here dying to put a lot of money in against the 2, who I think is way the horse to beat here. But I'll take one shot with the 3.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to go for short prices of these races. I just get the sense the number 2 Laurelin is a really talented horse, and we'll see if she's ready to deliver her best effort off the layoff, or if she even needs to in this race. But I put her on top. I do want to use the number 8 Birder account somewhere underneath. I couldn't quite pull the trigger with her as my top pick because she's got so much to prove, but she is the one huge price in this race that I want to include somewhere underneath, potentially in exactas and trifectas. So 2-8-7-9 for me and 3-2-5-9 for Mike in the DRF Sunday race of the day. The Memories of Silver at Aqueduct. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.